inside of you. Blessings to all of you beautiful beings. It's Elena and I'm enchanted to have you be here on my channel. Hello and welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. If you're new, I'm sorry this is your first video that you see of me, and if you've been here before, hi kitty. Lots of noise. And if you've been here before, hello and welcome back to each and every one of you amazing, fantastic, beautiful souls right across the screen. Lots of love, lots of warm hugs, and hopefully you and yours are safe. This video is mainly for those who have been subscribed for a while on my channel and who have been wondering where I kind of disappeared off to. Right, Lila? And I'm gonna kind of talk about what's been happening in my life, and I guess Lila decided to come here and be my moral support. That is tea. That is not for you. To put it shortly, a lot in regards to personal family things. A lot in regards to personal family things, ridiculous events which were out of my control, and a ton pertaining to my health. I don't normally talk about my health or share a lot of personal details about my life on this channel, and I was really debating hard if I wanted to make this video at all, but since I had a lot of plans, made promises that was unfortunately unable to fulfill them in time, I figured I owed a bit of an explanation as to why all these delays happened. Are you ready for some reality TV worthy life events? Now, I'm a bit uncomfortable talking this face to face and just staring at my face in the camera as I try to explain these life events, so I'm going to be inserting clips and things into this video. That way I'll be a little bit more comfortable talking about some personal things, and well, I get to tell you my story. I first want to thank all of those who have reached out with kind words and encouragement. I really appreciate that, and when some of my days were really bad, it helped lift my spirits. And thank you all for your patience in regards to my shop, which is now open again, and the videos which I had planned but needed to delay. Starting off with a little bit of life events. At the beginning of June, we found a baby raccoon in our backyard by the garage. He was very hurt and injured and pretty much screaming for help until we brought him inside. This was around 1 a.m. He walked right into the cat carrier, we put on the ground, we covered it with a blanket and placed it in our bathtub, closing the door off from my other animals. I immediately called the vet, where I bring Lila and Solstice. They have an emergency line. Their protocol for any raccoon is euthanasia. No treatment, they won't even look at him, nothing, right away euthanized. That didn't sit right with my husband and I. We decided to wait until the next day to call up our other places. We called a few the next day and have come across the same answer and the same protocol. The raccoon was calm and we were able to assess the situation safely. We used gloves and things so we wouldn't come into direct contact with the animal. He was very tiny and all kinds of scratched up, beat up, and messed up. His ear was torn, he had many open wounds, and his back left paw was severely hurt. I won't be putting up any of the graphic images, but he was in pretty bad shape. We think some larger animal dragged him out of his den and attempted to eat him. Anyways, we did the best we could to clean up all his wounds, placed antibacterial ointment on them, and made him a comfortable spot in our bathtub since he was too small to escape it. At first. It was never my intention to keep him, but we wanted to find a place that would take care of him. He needed to be bottle fed frequently and taken care of, which I did with pleasure. Again, safely with precaution and very thick gloves. At the same time, we've been calling other vet places, animal rehabilitation places, and animal hospitals, all which were under immediate protocol for euthanasia. There was only one place which I was avoiding calling because it felt off, it felt weird, first red flag. In the state of Massachusetts, it's illegal to possess a wild animal unless you have a wildlife rehabilitation certificate. What we were doing, we could have gotten into a lot of trouble. More on that later. For about a week and a half, we took care of him and bottle fed him and named him Loki, which was quite suitable, I might add. He was doing so much better, growing and gaining weight and more energy, and of course getting used to us and being super adorable. We weighed him in at just over 2 pounds and he was doing great. In the span of that time, we still haven't found a place that would take him in. I shared my frustrations with that on my Instagram stories. I even called out of state, but they wouldn't take an animal crossing the border. So I decided to get Wildlife Rehab certified. It just required for me to pass an exam and pay the state a fee. I was ready to do that and started studying, yes, just to keep Loki safe. Then I was reading up on the state of Massachusetts guidelines of wildlife and fisheries, and even wildlife rehabilitators are not allowed to take in raccoons. So taking the exam would have gotten us nowhere. At that point, we were deciding if we should just keep him, but our home is not designed to house an animal that requires so much space and energy, and by then we were letting him explore our kitchen and living room to let him get some exercise. He was so sweet. His back paw was almost healed and he was eating by himself and causing mischief, as the name implies. My poor living room lamps will never recover. At the end of June, I was supposed to be flying out to Belarus, and my husband had other responsibilities to take care of, so we really needed to figure out what to do with the baby. I called the last place left, the one I was avoiding. They had pictures of raccoons on their page, which gave me some hope. The lady called us back right away. She was extremely rude and unprofessional and was demanding the baby. I asked her a ton of questions and wanted to know her protocol. She said she would never euthanize a baby and that he was going to be kept with other raccoons so that he can learn to be a raccoon, according to her exact words. It still felt a bit off, but we were out of options. She agreed to keep in touch and to let us know how he's doing. I offered to volunteer to come and help out with him and other animals. I offered to visit and help feed him, but she absolutely denied any sort of contact. Second red flag. And even meeting up, we didn't meet at her facility. We met at a neutral location by a college because she initially said she was on her way from somewhere and it would be easier. Sure, but then I found out she didn't even have a facility. It was all at her home. Red flag number 3. But at this point, it was too late and we already gave her the baby. We had him for almost a month and I was hopeful that he would have a good home. Just because she wasn't good with people, she could be good with animals. She was extremely rude and extremely unprofessional and very crass, and I really have no words about this individual. She said she was a wildlife rehabber for over 10 years, and I checked up on him every week and she would send over some pictures saying that he was doing great, which made me very happy. But more on this later. On to the end of June. I was supposed to be flying over to Belarus to see my family, particularly my grandma. She wasn't doing so great in health, and I haven't seen her in over 4 years, or more actually. Everything was a go. Things were packed, things were planned, and things were continuing to be delayed in my life because of all the events happening more suddenly than I expected them to. If anyone has traveled overseas to visit family specifically, you'll know how much of an ordeal goes into all of that. But on the day of our departure, I was dressed and ready to go. Our flights were canceled due to the political situation that's been starting there. Since then, we have attempted to visit there once more and were unable to move forward. So unfortunately, my trip never happened, and I don't know when I can get another chance to see my grandma. They thankfully did refund our tickets after the 2 failed attempts. And with all that going on, I think I was mentally and physically just overall drained. Things were crazy and I was a bit stressed out. My body decided to let me know that by getting me sick. I got the flu bad for about a week and a half. Think headaches, body aches, typical flu things, weakness, and 4 days out of that I had a fever of 102. I was miserable for the whole time. You really don't realize how much you appreciate being able to breathe through both of your nostrils until you cannot do so. Thankfully, it was not COVID. I recovered and things started to look up. I was trying to sort my life out, back to some sort of normal, and continue where I left off. I had about a week of reprieve, and then more things happened. The animal rehabilitation lady wasn't responding to my messages for a bit. At this point, she had Loki for 3 weeks. Then she started yelling at me through texts if I was exposed. I asked her what was going on. She wouldn't respond. I don't know if the worry and anxiety for that had happened to do with the things that happened after, but I was starting to feel ill again, but in a different way. Here is where the rest of my health comes into play. I get asked frequently how I stay so positive in my videos and how I can be so happy and cheery at the times that you see me. And I think the honest answer for that is that I live with so much constant reoccurring pain and illness that I just try not to waste my energy on things that don't make me happy. I have chronic migraines, debilitating migraines where you can't exist. The pain is surreal. I have PCOS with very constant flare-ups, as recent events have shown, endometriosis, and a heart arrhythmia which causes me to faint. It's fun telling my professors at college about the fainting thing so that they wouldn't call an ambulance unless I really severely hurt myself falling. Their facial expressions are usually pretty priceless. Now, that's just to name a few of the frequent constant flyers of my daily life. Since COVID happened, we haven't had insurance, and I haven't seen my doctors in over a year. I know, bad decisions on my part, but hindsight is 20/20. So getting ill was in regards to having pain in my lower abdomen. That pain is very familiar to me, unfortunately. I've already had 2 surgeries for removing large cysts off my ovaries. Not fun. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. The rest of the story could get a little TMI. Just a heads up. So, back to the raccoon. The lady then texted me that Loki tested positive for rabies and that the state will be getting in contact with me. What? He was fine when we had him. In a small mammal like that, the incubation period is about 3 to 5 days, especially since he was about 3 pounds when we gave him to her. So he contracted rabies in her care, most likely because she kept him with other raccoons and things were not in proper order with quarantine and such. Even our town animal control officer agreed. Yes, we were in contact with the town animal control people, with the town nurse, and a whole bunch of town and state officials. On top of that, we also found out that the actual lady who ran that particular rehabilitation center passed away, and the one we were in contact with didn't have the proper credentials for that facility. But with that text, I knew that Loki was no longer with us and that I made a mistake for trusting her. She then absolutely refused to provide any other information to the state or to the authorities, refused to cooperate with the officials, and pretty much just went off grid. The state contacted us. My pain was gradually increasing, and now I had to deal with the state of Massachusetts epidemiologist. The town officials came to our home. We of course cooperated, told them everything that happened, provided text proof, and explained to them the whole entire situation. They still highly recommended that Roman and I get the rabies vaccine just as a precaution, and they put our animals under quarantine for 45 days. If anyone has seen Solstice, my almost 70-pound puppy, she needs a lot of exercise, and I wasn't allowed to take her out on walks or anywhere. Lila is an indoor-outdoor cat, and she was very much not pleased with the situation. It was getting a little hectic in the house between the dog trying to I don't know, exert energy and that type of thing, and she was being very frustrated, stuck inside. The cat was being very frustrated, stuck inside, and they were not getting along, and really disrupted the sanctity of my home. The officials understood our lack of insurance and thankfully agreed to cover the cost of the rabies vaccine, which is not cheap. The increased stress and anxiety took me over the edge, and that was my first visit to the emergency room. There we were able to start the rounds for the vaccine. I had 4 shots at once. I was deathly afraid of needles. Like, the nurse came in holding a whole, like, handful of syringes for me, and I had a panic attack right then and there. Like, they had to do the whole oxygen thing and everything, because imagine a nurse just walking in, like, with a handful of needles. It was like exposure therapy, so I'm a little less afraid of needles from that situation. And Roman had 7 shots at once. They go based on your weight. Oh gosh, not fun at all. And I had scans which confirmed that I had a large cyst on my left ovary. It was a complex hemorrhagic cyst, almost 5 centimeters. This is about 4 centimeters across, and the cyst was almost 5 centimeters, so it was even bigger than this. And imagine a round, fully round thing of about 5 centimeters. I could feel it on my abdomen when I like rubbed my hand across. I also had a UTI which reached my kidney. Now, I've mentioned before that I had previous surgeries, and the scan results terrified me. I did not want to have another one, and combining all the other things happening at the same time, I think mentally I just couldn't handle everything that was going on. I went into a pain-filled, numb, depressed, and shut down state where I couldn't get out of bed for about a week. There was nothing I could do, and it was very hard. I did schedule some doctor appointments, which were useless and just cost a lot of money, and the pain was not going away. In fact, it was getting worse. I've been to the emergency room again, and after a week of agony, agreed to start taking some heavy painkillers. At least some of the pain was numbed down, but I was very limited at how much I can function. I was at the emergency room a few more times. On my 3rd visit, they did another scan, and it showed that I now had 2 cysts on my left ovary and 1 cyst on my right ovary. The left ones totaled to about 6 centimeters. Again, let me see if I have... Oh, here's something a little bit more. I'm measuring it. Oh, this is about 6 centimeters. So on my left ovary, I had 2 cysts that totaled to about 6 centimeters, and the right one was 3 centimeters. No wonder the pain wasn't going away for such a long time. I had more growth. Now, when I talk about pain, imagine a blunt spoon heated up red hot, and someone is digging through your abdomen with it, tearing things apart inside. The pain radiated up my back, down my legs. I was feverish and nauseous. There was no comfortable laying or sitting position. Walking was excruciating because with every step, the pain just like radiated further. Anytime my bladder filled up, even just a little, the pain got worse. So there were constant, frequent trips to and from the bathroom, and I couldn't think or even function remotely normally. I suffered with this for 3 weeks. I would never wish this much pain on anyone, and I hope you never have to experience even half of this. During the span of this, Roman and I had to go back to the hospital 3 more times to continue the series for rabies vaccine. More ouchies, but thankfully 1 shot at a time. At the 3-week mark, my doctor called me to try a different pain medication, which I didn't take. That was a Friday, and if things didn't get better over the weekend, I was going to go in for surgery. Yes, that was that doctor's way of trying to, I don't know, fix it, was just by waiting it out and totally sedating me with pain medication, which is, I'm not seeing the doctor anymore at all. And I have a different doctor that I'm going to be working with, hopefully to prevent these types of things from happening rather than trying to work with the symptoms when they arise. So that was on a Friday that the doctor called, and if things didn't get better over the weekend, I was going to go in for surgery. I was desperate and willing to do anything at that point to find some relief for the pain. I tried to do some research about my situation at this time and look for holistic approaches. I really didn't want to have more surgeries. The recoveries from them for me were never good, and just a lot of... Now, I'm not a medical professional, so I cannot give any medical advice, but I have come across something that immediately helped me. A hot compress with castor oil. That was literally my saving grace. And after the first use of it, I felt so much better. Since then, I've been doing the compress every other day to help keep the pain down. I am much better now, but unfortunately not fully recovered. The added stress of the $80,000 in medical bills I now have isn't helping. But thankfully, I now have insurance. I will be going to seeing different specialists who will hopefully work on preventative situations, as I've mentioned before. Now, I'm starting to feel more like myself. My college semester started, and I'm sure there will be more adventures to come, but I'm getting back into the swing of things and will hopefully resume my videos, shop, and everything back to the way they were, and definitely try to catch up on all that I missed. If you've listened this far into the video, thank you! Thank you for being here and listening. I think I covered the biggest life events that have happened, but if you can believe it, there's even more to this story, and anyways, I shall see you on the next more lighthearted video. Love you all. Bye.